Good evening, everyone. How are you getting on? Thank you for coming this evening. My own name is Pat O'Sullivan. I'm Deputy Principal here at St. Ciarán's Community School. Also here with us this evening is Miss Cara McLaughlin, our Principal. Unfortunately, she's been struck down with laryngitis, so I'll be doing talking for both of us this evening. However, she is manning the chat, so she is here. Also, we have Gary Hoy from Olive Education, who will be speaking later on in relation to our devices. And also, kindly, Dean Murphy has made himself available from St. Columkille's Credit Union, and he'll also be speaking to us this evening as well. So I'm just going to share a few slides just to give you rationale in relation to the one-to-one devices. So I suppose this evening we're here to talk about our plan to introduce one-to-one devices for our incoming first years and fifth year students. We'll go through how this will benefit our students throughout their school journey and how one-to-one devices can enhance kind of the project-based learning, the digital access and student outcomes across the school. So throughout the presentation, I'm going to go through the rationale for implementing the one-to-one devices. I suppose I'll also outline the challenges that we have in our current school laptop provision in terms of our laptop trolleys. We'll also go through the benefits and what are the benefits of one-to-one devices for our students and staff. And then I'll hand you over to Olive, who should go through our implementation plan. So the rationale, I suppose we need to understand why one-to-one devices are essential, especially in relation to project work and kind of the increasing digital demands of education. We considered feedback from students, teachers and parents, and this helps us kind of highlight the need for one-to-one devices going forward in our school. So just quickly an overview of kind of junior cycle, senior cycle subjects. Across both junior cycle and senior cycle subjects, coursework and projects now play a major role in our assessment. So all junior cycle subjects have CBAs, that's classroom-based assessments, and a large number of them also have coursework element, which make up a significant portion of the final grade. The CBAs, I suppose, they require our junior cycle students to research, collaborate, create PowerPoints, create presentations, and then present them digitally to the class. Senior cycle, that's currently going through a change, I suppose, which has really exacerbated the need for one-to-one devices. All new senior cycle subjects will have a project worth 40% of their final grade. And I suppose this has really highlighted the importance of one-to-one devices, especially in assessment. So your 40% for each subject can equate to in around 240 points in your leaving cert. So to succeed, students need, I suppose, consistent access to reliable technology. So it's not just occasionally, but every day they will be using this. So in terms of our new senior cycle subjects, for our incoming first year students, all of these subjects all the new senior cycle subjects will be in. For our students going into fifth year, they'll be starting off with tranche 2. So tranche 1 are already in, so it's biology, chemistry, physics, Arabic, Latin, ancient Greek, business, film studies. Tranche 2 is starting in September when your sons and daughters will start fifth year. That includes accounting, construction studies, engineering, English, geography, LCP and PE. Now, out of the tranche 3 subjects, which are our fifth years next year, won't have the new senior cycle subjects. Out of those in tranche 3, agricultural science, DCG, home ec, they already have project components. They just haven't been renewed under new senior cycle redevelopment. So there are still project components built into those. Just to give you kind of a taste of what is coming down the road in terms of your subjects and the projects that are based in them. I suppose consistent access to digital tools improves the learning outcomes and ensures fairness. So what we're looking at is school managed devices kind of guarantees equal access to learning tools. Supports for assessment methods So digital tools support varied and flexible assessment methods in classes for both junior and senior cycle subjects. And this kind of enhances both their learning experience and how they're assessed and how they develop in each subject area. This also, having a device, also empowers the student potential. I suppose the one-to-one program aims to empower every child to reach their potential through innovative teaching and learning practices. This helps kind of support more flexible assessment methods and also helps us use innovative teaching strategies to bring out the best in every learner. As we know, each student learns in a different manner. The rationale also includes kind of personalized learning. It allows students kind of to work at their own pace, and they can access tailored and interactive digital resources anytime because they will have that access through the one-to-one device. I mentioned earlier about CBAs. Having a one-to-one device enhances the collaboration that works within the classroom and in group projects. So these digital tools enable students to work together effectively while they're sharing ideas and contributing to group projects. They access to digital resources, so students will benefit from a diverse digital tools like ebooks and educational apps, and that enhances the learning experience. And with that access to those digital resources, again, going back to the first point of personalized learning, it allows them to move at their own pace. It allows them to go back and have the educational apps to support them through their learning journey. And of course, we need future-ready skills. I suppose this allows us to develop digital literacy, which kind of realistically builds essential skills that prepares them for future work, study, and life in a tech-driven world. While this is the rationale, we also reached out to our students, teachers, parents on the device needs, and we surveyed them. What came back, I suppose, was a high support for digital access. Both students and parents expressed strong interest and strong support for improved digital access to enhance their learning opportunities. They also outlined the current device challenges we have within the school and how that's impacting effective learning experiences. I suppose the findings really reinforce the need for one-to-one implementation and the importance of one-to-one device programs to provide equal digital access for all of our students. So in terms of a student survey, I suppose to get a feel for what school is like, we survey a student and ask him, do they use Teams to communicate about their schoolwork? So 92% of them use a digital means to communicate in relation to schoolwork, homework, and so on. But then, more importantly, is do you use Teams to complete assignments or homework? So the completion of assignments and homework, again for CBAs or project work, 98% of our student cohort said they do. So you can see there's a need and a use for the digital platform. So we also asked students, would they feel it would benefit them and their learning if every student had their own device? A high percentage of 98% came back and said it would. We also asked parents a similar question: do they support a school-managed student device for your child? 96% of them came back and said they would. So I suppose we listen carefully to feedback from students, parents, and teachers, and there is strong support for an improved digital access in our school. The surveys kind of have clearly showed that the limited device availability is affecting learning, and the one-to-one model is seen as the best way to ensure fairness and opportunity for all of our students. So while that's the rationale, I also want to go through what are the current challenges in terms of what we have at the moment. So currently we have a number of laptop trolleys that is shared among all of our students, so 620 students. So that limits access and creates reliability issues. So again, we throughout the survey we asked them that there is a high demand for devices. Shared devices, I suppose, are frequently in high demand, leading to limited availability for students. This can have a huge impact on assignment completion and also challenges in terms of that collaboration that we mentioned that is so important in terms of group work, that project work, those CBAs. So our current shared laptop system simply can't really meet the demand. Students often can't access devices when they need them the most, especially, I suppose, the most important part is around project deadlines. And this affects not only the individual work, but also that group collaboration and kind of the overall learning momentum as they're kind of hoping to carry themselves through a project. So throughout the survey kind of that supported this was students kind of, we asked them when using school laptop trolleys, what challenges have they experienced the most? And the start of a class, this was 29% is the most frequent one they came across was devices weren't charged when they were hoping to start and continue on with a project. 54% of people have lost time throughout the class kind of setting them up or slow or having to reboot. That equates to 83% of the issues in relation just to devices not being ready, not being reliable. And there was 17% had other issues. They were kind of two of the bigger ones. So, and we also asked the teachers then, how does the kind of current laptop provision affect the teaching and learning, the planning that happens for class? So an insufficient number of devices, not having enough devices available for the classes in front of them, 21%. Having reliability issues of a laptop not working or not working correctly was 39% of the issues there. And 18% of teachers, again, lost class time trying to set them up, hand them out, take them back, put them back into laptop trolley, losing class time where they could be moving forward in a project or an assessment or a CBA. And 22% had other issues, but again, those three were kind of main ones. There also came an issue with kind of the age and reliability concerns of the laptops we have at the moment. So the aging laptop hardware, many shared laptops are aging. They're leading to frequent technical problems and reduced performance. So these issues lead to frustration and kind of lost learning time for students, and again can affect the projects, can affect the coursework that they're doing or a CBA that they're doing. And this has a big impact on the learning quality. I suppose unreliable laptops affect the quality and consistency of digital learning experience for our users. But most importantly, unreliable technology undermines kind of the quality of what we're trying to deliver in class and the consistency for our students and what they're learning and their learning experience. So again, just kind of throw back to the survey that we put out to parents, teachers, and students. Teachers, how reliable are the current laptop trolleys? 22% were content, but 78% felt they were not reliable for what we were trying to achieve. And does the lack of availability of laptops affect lesson planning and delivery? So that's the most important thing. That's the bread and butter for what's in front of us and our students. And 89% felt it did affect the planning of teaching and learning for our students. So I suppose the other challenges that we have in relation to what we have at the moment in our laptop trolleys is the impact on student access and project completion. So the device access challenges. So limited and unreliable devices access restrictions. Limited and unreliable device access restricts students' ability to complete projects on time and hinders learning opportunities. With a limited number of devices, if a student is planning or a teacher is planning to carry out that work, that essential project work in a class, but they're not available at that time, that affects and restricts the student's ability to move forward. And this has a big impact on project completion. I suppose the lack of reliable technology delays students' project submissions and affects the quality of independent group work. And of course, that can often reduce learning opportunities. So if we have insufficient devices, that access in device access, this reduces the chances of collaboration and learning beyond the classrooms. A one-to-one device ensures learning doesn't stop when a laptop trolley is unavailable. And that's probably the most important point there. The rationale in relation to the 40% coursework across the whole suite of senior cycle subjects, the CBAs, the coursework and junior cycle subjects. Obviously, and being able to access apps online, they're important. But what's not being able to access because the trolley is unavailable is where the real issue lies. Now, I also kind of want to go through what are the benefits. So we have the rationale and with the challenges of what we have at the moment. What are the benefits of one-to-one devices for our students and staff? So providing each student with a device supports, I suppose, independent learning, collaborative projects, consistent access to digital resources, and this benefits both the learners and the educators. So greater access, enabling independent and collaborative work. This allows students with their own device. They can work independently at their own pace. They can collaborate easily with their classmates. They can engage more deeply kind of within the lessons, and overall this leads to higher motivation, confidence, and better learning outcomes. So independent learning kind of personalizes learning, becomes a reality. Students can learn at their own pace, access resources anytime, and engage with interactive content tailored to their needs. And that allows us to differentiate with the students in front of us, and allows the students kind of to have a positive relationship with learning, because they're moving at their own pace. It also helps in relation to collaboration between students. Digital tools also enhance collaboration and creativity. This makes it easier for students to work together on projects, to share ideas, and to develop kind of that innovative solutions. And the enhanced engagement. Access to devices increases their engagement and improves the overall learning outcomes. There's support for project-based assessment and skill development. Digital tool access. Continuous availability of digital tools enables effective learning and skill acquisition in modern education. Research skills enhancements. So again, researching is such a huge aspect of project work and coursework. CBAs. So again, to enhance their ability to research and have that digital tool in front of them. So that digital tool supports their thorough research and critical for successful project-based assessments and knowledge building. And of course, it also increases the communication and creativity, because the platforms encourage communication and creative expression, essential for collaborative projects. I suppose equity in reality is at the heart of this program, because an equitable device access, at the heart of this is our commitment to have equal access for all students. Every student, regardless of background, will have access to the same high-quality device and learning platform. This removes the barriers and supports differentiated learning. This also ensures that success depends on effort and talent. And many schools across the country, also including schools in our local areas, they have already introduced devices, and they're currently reaping the benefits in their school and coursework. I suppose what we're driving is a consistent learning environment. This having one-to-one devices ensures device availability for our students, and this creates a uniform learning experience throughout different year groups. Introducing a school-managed device ensures every student can access the tools and platforms necessary for these curriculum requirements. It helps the playing field, or levels the playing field, and supports our vision for an inclusive, high-quality education. So just taking that moment to kind of go through the rationale behind it, the challenges in terms of what we have at the moment, and obviously some of the benefits of having a one-to-one device. I'm going to hand you over to Gary from Olive Education, and he's going to go through the implementation plan and how the Olive team will support our students and support the rollout of a one-to-one device program. Thank you, and I'll pass you over to Gary.
Pat, thank you so much. Look, that was brilliant. I think you covered so many topics there, and you actually did most of my job, so I'm not sure what I have left to talk about here. I will talk about the logistics, but honestly, and I will refer back to some of what you spoke about as well, Pat. So forgive me for a repeat, but I think it's some of the things will cross over. But again, I thought that was really interesting, and especially around the surveys that you've taken out, right? That's the reality of how things are. You also spoke about the equity, and I think that's really important as well. So I will touch upon those. And I also wanted to say that there is an opportunity to ask questions. So you'll see the Q&A button on your screen. If you click on that, it will allow you to type in a question. I would suggest, look, if you want to ask a question, maybe wait until the end, because it's very likely we'll answer it as part of the presentation anyway. But if you feel you want to ask a question, you can go ahead and do that. But we certainly want to make sure everyone has a chance to ask a question at the end, and that everyone leaves tonight feeling, look, they have all the answers, they understand why this is happening, what changes are in place for the curriculum, how everything will work, what the costs are, what the payment options are, etc. Okay, but I just showed my face for one moment to say hello, and I'm going to also share in their presentation, and I'll talk over that. So bear with me for just one moment. Sorry, I did have this ready and it's disappeared on me. Bear with me one more moment. Okay, apologies. Okay, apologies. Those things happen just when you don't need them to happen. So, look, I'm going to start just with a really brief overview of who I'm here to speak about today. So the company's name is Olive. We support schools. This is what we do. We work with schools in order to implement one-to-one programs and to make sure that it's successful. Okay, so it's not a matter of just buying devices and hoping for the best and asking students not to do certain things and asking you as parents to manage them and support them and so on. It's really important that it's done right. So that is our job. We work, as I said, with quite a number of schools. We've been working with both Cara and Pat for quite some time now in order to look at what's going to be a right fit for St. Ciarán's, look at what other schools have done, learn from that, and also then make a plan around tonight and the wider plan as well around what happens next. What device are we speaking about? When will students get their device, etc. So we'll talk about all that as we move forward. But again, just a really brief overview here. We are 40 plus years of experience within the business, and that's all of the people that work in Olive. We all come from this industry, education. We have teachers on our staff. I'm working in this field for probably the best part of 15 years now. And we're Dell partners, we're Asus partners, Microsoft partners, Microsoft education partners. We've offices all around the country as well, which is really important. So we're local. I'm in Drogheda here, actually based. I live and work from Drogheda, right? So I'm not too far down the road. We've offices in Dublin, Galway, and Kilkenny, and we've staff all around the country as well. Pat alluded to it as well, that look, we work with quite a number of schools who are close by in Meath, so we're well familiar with the area as well. And you may know some of the parents who are already using our services, and hopefully that gives you a flavour of the trust and the reputation that we carry as well. Okay. But just to, and Pat did speak about this, but I just want to reiterate, I think it's important. We're talking about one-to-one, and I think it's important to say, look, what does that actually mean, right? What does it mean for students? So this is a good description, and it says one-to-one is where in a school, each student has their own dedicated device, which they use as part of their learning. The device belongs to the student, so they can use it both in school and for studying at home. So we saw from the surveys, Pat talked a lot about the class sets and the shared devices. So this is very different in that this is a device that each individual student will use at all times, both at home and in school. Okay, so just a nice brief overview there. It's also really important, and again, Pat spoke a little bit about this, but the changes to the curriculum. So the Leaving Cert is just a little bit over 100 years old at this stage. It hasn't changed too much within that 100 years. We all know how that has gone. We all still probably have nightmares about the Leaving Cert, but it's finally changing, and it's changing, which now means that 40% of the results will be based on project work. Okay, and that's really important because really it more accurately reflects the realities of life now. Okay, so life has changed, industry has changed, everything has changed over those 100 years except the Leaving Cert as such. So it's now more accurately reflecting the skills that we need to teach our students, the skills that they're going to need when they go into college, the skills they're going to need in the workplace, the skills that they're going to need in their everyday lives. Okay, not to go through the individual pieces here, but you can see some of the skills that are recognised as being the top skills of the future. So analytical thinking, active learning, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. So if I go for an interview today or tomorrow with anyone, right, they're going to ask me certain things that maybe I wouldn't have been asked 10 years ago. They're going to ask me, how do I manage stress? How do I work with other people? Am I creative? Am I collaborative? All those kind of things that maybe we didn't necessarily look at in the past. Okay, and they're all really important. And the introduction of this new junior cycle, sorry, this new Leaving Cert curriculum, and prior to that, the junior cert that I changed quite recently. Again, they're all reflected in building these skills and teaching our students these skills. Okay. So what do Olive do and what do I do is all part of this to support it. Okay. So we provide everything that each student will need for digital learning, and we provide everything that's needed to make it successful, including the hardware, which is the device, and all of the supports that come around that. So I'll go through those individually. And what that means is that the school and teachers can focus fully on teaching and learning, as opposed to getting caught up in becoming tech experts or trying to manage problems. Okay, it's just focusing on what the school are there to focus on, which is teaching, and allow students to focus on what they should be focusing on, which is learning as well. Okay, so I'm going to start with the 2-in-1 laptop. I have a specific slide around that in a moment, which I'll come to, and in that slide I'll tell you about the functionality, what features are on it, how it looks, etc. But I do want to jump onto the secure setup and device management, and this is really important. And this is where the device very much differs than the device you might already have at home. Okay, so each device is set up and configured for each individual student. It's set up in order to ensure that it's secure, it's fully safe, and that it has everything it needs for a student to use it effectively. It's really important as part of that to know it is an educational device, right? So a device that we use at home, whether it be a mobile phone, a tablet, our own laptop, iPad, etc., that's an unmanaged device. That's not an educational device. We might have some educational apps on it, but still then I can go onto social media, I can go on to different things that aren't educational focused. Whereas this device, it's set up, it's secured, just so that is an educational device only. That means that restrictions are applied. So games, social media, inappropriate material, they can't be installed or accessed. Instead, all apps and content is carefully chosen by the school, and that's what's applied, right? And as a parent, that should bring you great peace of mind. So you know that when this device is being used, it's been used for education. It's been used for schoolwork, right? Now, students don't like hearing that. They don't want to use the device. They lose interest when it doesn't have all of their own social media and personal content. But as a learning device, it's really important that there isn't those distractions, that they don't have inappropriate content, that they only have what they need. And again, that gives them the best chance to do what they need to be doing in terms of being successful in their exams. Okay. Those restrictions again are in place 24/7. So it's not that they fall off at a certain time in the evening, or they fall off at the weekend, or even during long holidays. It's 24/7. So for all of the time that a student is a student within St. Ciarán's, these restrictions, these settings, these security policies will all apply. And putting those restrictions in place, it requires a certain type of licensing, and that's all included in the package as well. So you as a parent don't have to do anything around that. And the setup and how we set it up and how we secure everything and how we manage everything means as well that we can support the devices and support the school, support students, and support you as a parent if something does go wrong. Okay, so we'll always try and set it up to reduce or to minimize the chance of something going wrong, but still things will go wrong. So when that does happen, we're making sure that we're going to support you. Okay, I'll come to more about that in a couple of moments too. So I should also say that for students who are going into 5th year, all of these restrictions and settings will be lifted as soon as they finish school. Okay, so after they finish school, after they do their Leaving Cert, they'll be able to use this device that they would use any device. So they can bring it to college, to the workplace, if they go traveling, and they can use it without any of those restrictions or management. Okay, so you're buying a device not just for the couple of years of school, but also beyond that as well. Right. Flexible payment options, we're going to come to those a little bit later as well. And we also have Dean from the credit union, as Pat mentioned, who will talk about the credit union option also. Dedicated support. So really important, I'll talk about these two pieces, dedicated support and the 5-year warranty and 5-year accidental damage cover. So as a parent and as a student, as I said, anything that may go wrong, we're here to help you. So the warranty is in place. So any of us who go and buy anything nowadays, any kind of electrical equipment in a shop, they'll probably ask us, look, do you want to take a warranty with that? I always say no, rightly or wrongly, I say no. But what we're doing here is we're including an extended warranty as part of the package. Okay, so there's no option there, it's just included. That means if something goes wrong, there's a failure somewhere, it's covered for the whole 5 years, right? But also, and this is more important, I would say, is if it breaks. So if the screen breaks, there's a physical breakage, the keyboard breaks, something stops working, it's covered, right? So the device breaks, it's all covered within this package as well. You're not expected to have insurance. You're not expected to go and try and figure out how you can get this fixed. We don't expect the student to be without a device for any period of time. It's all covered. So again, we're trying to minimize any disruption, but if something does go wrong, we've these measures in place to fix them, okay? So what is the device that we're talking about? So it's a 2-in-1 device, first of all. So it looks like a laptop, okay, in one format, but it also has a screen that's touch screen. So we can touch the screen, we can use the keyboard. It has a digital stylus included as well. You can see a little sample of that. So we can write on the screen, we can draw on the screen, we can annotate. But the screen will also fall back. So it'll fall back all the way to sit behind the keyboard, and it then becomes a tablet. Okay, so it has huge amount of functionality, and it means that I can use it depending on what subject I'm doing. I might do a lot of typing, especially for my project work. In other subjects, I might use the pen. So for example, my geography teacher might ask me to send me a blank map, okay, and they might ask me to draw a border through different countries, or they might send me a blank image of a particular country and I have to draw borders in, right? Or my science teacher might send me a picture of a heart and I have to annotate where the different parts of the heart are, the different parts. Okay, so, or I may just be using the keyboard. So again, it just gives me loads of flexibility. Some students may prefer using just the keyboard the whole time. Other students may prefer using the touch. So it caters for everybody. And come back to that word, I think that Pat mentioned, just equity. It means that, look, we're all in the same boat. We all learn differently, but we now have the tools to learn the same things. We might just learn them in different ways. Okay. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but the device, it's really flexible there, as you can see. In terms of the specifications, then it has, so it's a Windows laptop. It is full Windows Pro, which is important. It is a 12.2-inch screen, which is seen as optimal. So it's a really nice screen. It has Gorilla Glass. It has rubber edging. So it means that if it's dropped, if it's in and out of a locker all day, it won't break. Okay, so it's an educational device. Remember, it's built under the assumption that it will be getting harder wear and tear than our normal personal device might get. So it is in and out of a school bag all day, a number of times a day. It's in and out of a locker. It might be in our bag. We throw our bag on the ground. Someone might kick our bag by mistake. All of those things are taken into account. So it's really strong. But again, if it does break, it's covered. Those breakages are covered. Okay. So it has 128 gigs of storage, 8 gigs RAM, and a high processor. Really important. Sometimes we'll hear, look, do I need more storage? The answer is no. All of the work will be stored in the cloud as part of the student's Office 365 account. What that means is, as I'm doing all my project work over my 2 years in 5th and 6th year, as I'm completing all that work that my teacher sends me, the borders, the pictures of the heart, drawing rivers in a certain country, whatever it might be, all of that work is saved, right? Any videos I might take as part of my project work, they're all saved in the cloud and they stay there and they're always going to be accessible as a digital copy. Excuse me. It also means that if I did have a problem with the device, I go home on Friday, I go to a friend's house, I leave it there, I need to do some work on Sunday night, I can access someone else's device in the house for that period of time and I can access my work. Okay, so it's always there in cloud format. It also means that if I'm doing something that doesn't involve the device, so let's say in English class, my teacher asked me to write an essay, I'm doing it in pen and paper, which will still happen. I can be writing in pen and paper. At the very end, I might take a picture. I might then save a picture to the cloud. I now have a digital copy of a handwritten piece of work. Okay, so I'm building up my portfolio. I'm still using pen and paper, but I'm utilizing this device as a tool as well. Okay. Sorry, I'll move on. Guaranteed battery life. So it has all-day battery life as well, which means that it's charged every evening. We encourage that it's charged every evening. Chargers then aren't brought into school. They'll last the full day. They'll last beyond that. And it means we never have to worry about the battery dying. We never have to worry about having to find a charging port. We never have to worry about bringing our charger in. It's all of these features and functions are just built to support the learning. Okay. It also comes with an optional heavy duty case. So as part of your option to purchase, you'll go onto a dedicated, I'll come to that in more detail in a moment, but there will be a dedicated online store for St. Ciarán's. You will go onto that. You can't buy the wrong device or anything that you shouldn't buy or you don't need. You will go on, you'll see the device. The only one option that you'll have there is to buy a case, right? Some parents like to have the case. Other parents say, well, look, I don't feel it's necessary. That's entirely up to you. It's an additional €37. Again, it's a hard-wearing device. It's built for education. You have accidental damage cover included, but still some parents just like the thoughts of having that extra case. So again, entirely up to you. Okay. Another tool that's included, and this is more so for teachers, but for you as a parent, it should again bring great peace of mind. It's called Senso, and it's a classroom management tool. And what this allows as a teacher is for me in my class, I can see what my students are doing at any given time. Okay, so if I set them a task, guys, I want you to take 15 minutes and I want you to go, sorry, and I want you to research something around the elections that have just taken place in Ireland, okay? And I want you to put a bit of a project together and I want you to insert images and so on. I can see what students are doing at any given time. I can see that one of my students is maybe on something else, right? Now, it might mean that they are playing around with something they shouldn't, or they're doing their homework from the previous class, or maybe they've just fallen behind in the particular topic that we're doing, right? So by me seeing what's going on, it gives me the opportunity to talk to that student. I can do it discreetly and say, look, are you falling behind? Or look, go back to where you need to go back to. Or look, do you need help? Or do you know what? Are you finding this subject boring because you're flying ahead of everyone else? So it allows me to see all of those things as well as manage and keep everyone on track as well. Okay, so it's really important, a really good tool. For me, the best feature is where if we're using our device and at the end I say, okay, guys, we're going to put the devices away, we're going to close them up, and I want everyone to look up at me and we're going to do some work on the board and people aren't listening, I can press the button on my device as a teacher and it'll put everyone's all of the students' device to sleep. Okay, so it's a brilliant classroom management tool. An additional feature, and this is one for home, so it's enhanced safety at home. So Senso filtering, it helps keep students safe online even when learning at home, and it means that harmful, distracting websites that may ordinarily be accessible at home. So sorry, I'm going to just jump back a bit. I'm not explaining that well, but in school, all of the measures that we put on, restrictions, controls, the school have an additional security feature, which is the Wi-Fi. There's filtering on the school's Wi-Fi, which won't allow any harmful content to be accessed on any kind of device in school, right? When you go home, when a student goes home, they have all of our restrictions, our settings, our policies that I mentioned, right? But the one vulnerability ordinarily is where they can access the browser. So they can go on to Wi-Fi, they can go onto Google and they might look up something that's inappropriate, or even something that's not necessarily inappropriate, but something that's a distraction. So they might go onto their favorite football team's website. They might be looking at that when they should be doing their homework, right? Unless you have filtering at home, that won't be blocked. Most parents, most homes don't have filtering, okay? But this is an extra feature that is included within the package here, okay? So it means that the Wi-Fi that's guarded and secured in school will be exactly the same at home. So students won't be able to access any damaging or any distracting websites whilst they're at home as well. So again, it gives you that extra security and extra understanding as a parent that, look, when the device has been used, it's been used as an educational device only and for educational work only, okay? Really quickly, trusted, dedicated support for parents. So as I said, we're there. We're contactable for anything that might go wrong. Just something isn't working, the screen has gone blank, the battery isn't charging, there is a breakage. We're there to support you with all of those things. So you just pick up the phone, you send us a mail, you go online and you log a ticket. We don't expect you to try and figure any of these issues out yourself, okay? I'll go through really quickly what happens. We will always try and resolve an issue over the phone. So if it is a blank screen or something that's not a physical issue, we'll always try and resolve that online and without having to take the device away from the student. If it is a physical issue, what happens is we will come to the school, or we'll have a courier come to the school. They'll collect the device from there. The device will go to our repair centre in Galway. In Galway, it's repaired, fixed, and returned then to the school. Okay, so everything is covered. There's no payment needed by you. You don't have to book any couriers. It's all done and it's all included as part of the service. Moving on to payment options, and again, as I said, we'll go through a couple more slides after this. I'm nearly finished, I promised. And at the end, then Dean will talk about another option around credit union. But just to go through these quickly, as you go through the store, so the dedicated store for St. Ciarán's, you'll see there's a card payment option. That payment option allows you to pay, look, in a lump sum. So you can pay all in one go if you wish. But Olive Pay is an option where you can then go online and you can pay in stage payments. So you can decide how and when you pay. So you might pay a little bit this month, or you might decide to not start paying until February or even March. Whenever you might pay, you might then decide, I'm going to pay a little bit weekly, or I'm going to pay once a month, or I'm going to just pay off when I feel that I have it. Okay, so it gives you loads of options there. You decide. The one condition in all of the payment options is that it must be paid before the 30th of May, right? So before the end of May. And the reason for that is that we need to then configure these devices. So we need to get them, we need to set them up, we need to prepare them, and we need to have them ready for students. Okay, and if it falls beyond the 30th of May, if the last payment falls beyond that date, we can't ensure that the students have the device when they restart in school after the summer. Okay, they'll still get them, right? You're not going to be cut off from purchasing, but it just means we won't have it at that point in time. Okay, and I would say as well, and I know both Pat and Cara agree here, look, if you feel there'll be any issue in terms of that payment date or anything that you need to talk about, I would say, look, approach the school, and the earlier you can do that, obviously, the better as well. We are also on hand, obviously, to answer any questions that you might have. But just moving on really quickly to home finance, this is something that we're probably familiar with as well from going into those electrical stores, or now we buy a pair of shoes and we're offered finance. Okay, this is similar. We don't offer finance under Olive. This is a third party. Look, we do recommend against it. It is a credit agreement. There is some interest-free options there, but it is still a credit agreement. You do still need to undergo a credit check. You do still need to apply it, but it's there just as an option. Okay, I would say the credit union, we very, very much support the credit union. We always recommend it as being an excellent option. It gives you a longer term to pay over. It's obviously community focused. It's there to support the community. It's there to support this initiative as well, support students and their learning. And I know that Dean has been able to work out some preferential rates as well. So we'll come back to that, but this is just a brief snapshot of what other options are available also. And sorry, getting onto the price. So there's two options here. Prices differ slightly between first years and fifth years, and I'll explain why in a moment. But to talk first of all, look, what is included. So again, that device that we saw with the stylus and everything that is needed within that, all of the setup, all of the security, the configuration, everything that the student needs, all of the things that we spoke about, and also then the ongoing support that you need as a parent, and that's in place for you as a parent. The 5-year warranty, 5-year accidental damage cover that lives on regardless of whether or not the student has finished in St. Ciarán's. Okay, so all included. The first year bundle for all of those things, it's €696. The fifth year bundle then comes down slightly. It goes down to $654. Okay, the difference in price is down to the fact that, look, our support doesn't go on as long, so our resources are reduced basically for fifth years. And secondly, then some of that licensing that we spoke about, so Sense, the classroom management, the filtering, security at home, some of those things, then the license term isn't as long because students are only in school for say 2 years, whereas in first year they're in school for 5 years. So the license term is less, so the cost can be less as well. Okay. What happens next? And this is my last slide before I pass you over to Dean. So what happens next? So you will order online, and it says here in the coming weeks you'll receive a guide. And I know that's ready to go, so I'd imagine that'll be in the coming days. We'll just get clarity on that in a moment. On that, you'll see a QR code. The QR code will bring you to the store you order. It's a really simple process. We've made it really easy. Also, on that guide, it'll summarize a lot of what we spoke about tonight. It'll show you the pricing. It'll confirm what's included. It'll talk about the payment dates, etc. We will then deliver the device to the school after summer, right? And then we will have a device workshop after summer as well. That date is to be fully tied down and confirmed. But what it means is we will come in, the Olive Group will come in with our team. We will meet with students in their class groups after they return after summer, or in the case of first years, after they start for the first time. They'll get their device for the first time. They'll log in. They'll get a workshop in terms of, look, how to use it. They'll navigate some of the basics. And really, that workshop is important because we'll make sure everything is working correctly. So we'll have taken loads of checks and we'll have done loads of quality control before the student ever even touches the device. But this is kind of an extra layer. We'll just make sure everything is working as it should be so that no student will go home without everything that they need. Okay. All of that stuff will be reminded to you, but it's just to give you a really kind of broad overview. Okay. So we'll come to questions in a moment, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen first. And if you can bear with me, I'm going to pass you over to Dean.
Thanks, Gary. Good evening, everyone. Just for those that don't know me, my name's Dean Murphy, and I'm just the lending officer here in Kells Credit Union. I'd just like to thank Ciarán, obviously, for asking me along. But I'm kind of just here to give parents a way to kind of spread the cost over 12 months, as it can be a lot in one go. Now, just to give you an idea, €700 here over 12 months is working out about 14 per week or 61 per month. And it'll cost you about €28 in interest over the 12 months, but you'll obviously have the option to pay back. Now, the one thing, Hum can be good at times, but just the one thing with Hum is that they advertise as their interest-free loans. But there's a small little catch in it where they charge €4 per month for an administration cost. So €4 by 12 is €48. So it is actually more expensive with Hum. But we're obviously here and we obviously have in mind that it's for students and what it's needed for. So if you feel like you can't approach us for credit, please do come and contact me, because obviously it's in the students' interest that we're doing these loans for them as well. So, but if you have any questions, you can email in at loans@kelcu.ie, or you can give me a call directly, or just even drop in. So that's kind of me done. Unless anyone's any questions now, put you back to Gary.
Thanks, Dean. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to share a flyer just with a bit more information that you had. So
it's kind of just what I covered off there. So like the total cost, what you pay back in total over the 12 months would be 728, so €28.81 interest. But obviously you'll have the option to pay it off quick. So like you clear it in 6 months, you only pay 6 months interest. There's no kind of upfront costs. And obviously I'll be in your shoes in a couple more years. I've 1 in 4 class, so I'll be applying here to get it as well. So that's kind of it.
And Dean, thank you so much. And look, I would 100% reiterate just about Hum. And again, we have it there as an option, but proceed with caution. And I would say certainly the credit union is, look, it's a much broader option. It's a much more community focused option as well. So I'd certainly say, and I can see what you put together is fantastic. So Pat, I'm not sure if you want to talk, or should we move on to questions? And Carol, I know you've sent on, just said there is some questions there and you've been answering. So if you're happy, I think we can just, I'll read out some of the questions and we can perhaps just go through those. Does that suit everybody? Perfect. And sorry, my face will appear in a moment. Okay. So I know, sorry, someone had said this screen wasn't sharing, and it may be, just to remind everyone, look, this is being recorded, so it will be shared as well, so you can re-access it. You'd be able to forward it through like you would a video, go straight to a particular part if you want to look at it again. Also, the parent pack that we will be sharing, or sorry, that will come from the school, that will have a summary of pretty much everything we spoke about today as well, including the pricing and the options as well. Is there an option to use your own device if a student already has one? So I did mention this, that it wasn't an option, but I didn't necessarily go into the detail that I should have gone in. So I'll talk about that, and it's a really good question. The short answer is no, okay, and many different reasons, but one, and the first is all of those features that we saw. I spoke about the fact it's a convertible device. It turns from a laptop into a tablet, and in between it has a touch screen. It has all-day battery life. It's a Windows device. All of those things are really, really important. Okay, so I have somewhere here. a drawer full of devices and probably a number of drawers full of devices, right? There's iPads, there's Android tablets, there's all phones, right? I also use a MacBook, so I'm in a MacBook. MacBook is an expensive device, but it's not fit for the classroom. Okay, so it's not just because we're saying you can't use the device you have at home doesn't mean we're saying, look, what you have at home is cheap or anything like that. We're just saying it may not have the features. So my MacBook is not touchscreen. It doesn't flip. It doesn't work with a pen. It's not all day battery life. And it's an Apple environment as well, so it's not Windows, right? Or the device that you might already have at home, it might be a smaller screen, right? And honestly, a student trying to work off a smaller screen, it just doesn't work. A student trying to do project work, remember, 40% project work, a student trying to do it on a phone type device or an iPad type device, it doesn't work, right? It becomes really difficult. A student not having all day battery life, again, really difficult. We're expecting students to bring in their charger, right? We're trying to find a charging point for those students at any particular time. It's disruptive. It just doesn't work. Also, where students are using different types of devices, if you can imagine I'm a teacher in the class and I say, everyone, and sorry, one thing we should remember as well is this is very much a blended approach. So the devices will not replace anything that's currently there. It's like an additional tool that students will use when it's needed. So they may use it in some classes for 20 minutes today. That same class tomorrow, they may use for 10 minutes. The next class, they may use for a couple of minutes. Okay, so it's there when it's needed, right? But if you can imagine, I'm a teacher and I say to everyone, okay, open up your device and I want you to look at this. I want you to take 10 minutes and then I want you to submit that work to me. And by doing that, sorry, to do that, you need to look up in the top right-hand side of your screen, press the button, or to get your pen. And I have hands going up and saying, well, my screen isn't touchscreen. I don't have that button. I don't have that app. It's disruptive, right? It needs to, again, just be a tool that works in exactly the same way for every single student when it's needed. Okay, so that's one really important factor. The second is that security and control policies that I mentioned as well. If we all have different devices as students in the classroom, no common policy can be set across all of those. So you can imagine any student with one of these devices with all the controls and the security settings, right? As a teacher, I know they're doing exactly what they should be. They're controlled, they're doing their work, but I have 2, 3, 4 students throughout the room using their own device. I've no control. They could be on games, they could be on social media, they could be doing anything. There's no control, right? There's no control because it's an unmanaged device. So that's really, really, really important, okay? Third factor is, again, and I spoke about if something goes wrong. If different students bring in different devices and something goes wrong, what happens, right? So imagine the case where I have 2 students in front, they both put up their hand and say they have a problem with the device. And the first student, I asked student, what's wrong? It's just gone blank, right? I don't know what's wrong with it. And I'm trying to take it up to the teacher. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, let's try and figure this out. No, I can't fix it. Well, look, you're going to have to go home and you're going to have to try and get help at home. And maybe you're going to have to go to the local repair shop, wherever it might be, right? That student comes in the next day without a device. Why don't you have a device? It's getting fixed. The man in the shop said it's going to be €100. So we're waiting until whatever next week before we can do that, right? The second student put up their hand. What's the issue? Blank screen. Okay, that's an Olive managed device. Okay, go to Olive and it's done, right? That's really important. And I'm probably understating how important it is. But as a teacher, as a parent, as a student, when something goes wrong, there should be a very clear path. What happens? And that what should happen is it goes to Olive. It doesn't interrupt the class. It doesn't interrupt you as a parent. Sorry, it doesn't put any pressure. It just means we can focus on teaching as teachers and the students can focus on learning. Okay, so I hope that helps. And sorry, I'm just going to go through, I'm literally just reading these questions. Okay, so look, another good question. If the students are at school for 6 years, including TY, and the warranty is for 5 years, what happens for the final year? So really good question. So there isn't a 5-year warranty. So I should say, sorry, there isn't a 6-year warranty. The 5-year warranty and 5-year accidental cover that we have in place, is a manufacturer's warranty. And what that means is it lives on with the manufacturer, so ASUS. So again, if a student is using the device after they leave school, right, or you're on holiday, the student starts in first year, you go on holiday, you have the device, and something goes wrong, it's covered by ASUS, right? So it's covered regardless of where the student is. It's worldwide cover, and ASUS and no manufacturer will offer more than 5 years of coverage, right? So what happens in that 6th year if you have it? So in that final year, if there is a breakage, what happens is it can still be fixed. It'll still go through the same process, but it's just not free. So if you imagine, let's say the screen broke in that final year and you need it replaced, you still follow the same process. You still get in touch with us. We still go to Galway with it, but it just wouldn't be covered free. And we'll come back and say, look, the screen, for example, is €90, or a key is broken off, that's €50, whatever it might be, right? So it can still be repaired, but it just wouldn't be covered free. So again, I hope that helps with that piece. Does the school have access to the browser data or any other data from the device? No, is the short answer. I presume the question is just around, look, data protection and so on. Look, any content that the student creates will be saved to the cloud. As I said, it's saved to Office 365. Each student will have their own OneDrive folder. Without getting too technical, they'll have their own OneDrive folder. It's all saved there, but there's no data collection here. Microsoft don't collect any data from students. The school won't be doing any of that. It's literally just content that the student will be creating, and that will be saved. So the school will certainly have access to that, but just it's not in the school's interest. It's no interest to go and track. And again, remember, it's locked down in such a way that this becomes a boring device. The reality is students come home, they'll do their work. They don't want to touch this when they're not doing work, because they'll want to pick up their own personal device. They'll want to go on TikTok, Snapchat, whatever it might be, right? With this device, they just do their schoolwork, and that is the reality, okay? Okay, so sorry, what happens if you've more than one child in the school? I'm concerned about the cost for multiple students. So again, a really good question. So part of the cost of the device is, of the bundle is our service costs and licensing, but we will only charge a family a maximum of €120 per child for services, right? So the second device will come down by a certain amount. Now it depends what year the student is in. So let's say you had a first-year student and a fifth-year student. We'll be able to take €80 off the fifth-year student's cost, okay? But what I'd say is, if that is applicable to you, or anyone is applicable to, or even if you have twins, triplets, or any siblings who might even be in the same year group, right? Just get in touch before you place your order, and we will work with you on that and make sure you're not paying more than one service fee as part of the bundle, okay? And sorry, can Ola give us some insight into the number of issues they receive on these devices? I can honestly say very little issues, okay? So a big part of what we're doing is making sure that we're trying to reduce any occurrences that might come up in the first place, and then we're setting those controls and policies in place to make sure if they do come up, I mentioned that anyway, if they do come up, that we're fixing them, right? But a common issue, the most common issue would probably be like a broken screen, and it's not a common issue whatsoever, but that's the kind of issues that we see, where a screen gets broken, right? And again, that's all covered. Sorry, bear with me one moment. Okay. And sorry, an icon come up to say there's only 5 minutes left. Look, that it won't cut off. It won't cut off after 5 minutes. But I'll keep just going through the questions for the time being. Sorry, bear with me. And sorry, yeah. So look, any other issues? Honestly, very little. These are built for education. These are being used by literally thousands of our students, and they're well maintained. They're built for education. Really powerful. Do all they need to do. We don't see issues with them. If we did see an issue that came up, and it's something that we expect might then apply to other devices, I don't mean obviously accidental damage or any physical damage. I mean, it's something, software issue was going to, we found it was going to affect devices. We can take proactive steps as well, because they're managed. We can take proactive steps to put something in place push it out remotely to those students to make sure that what might happen doesn't actually happen, okay? Okay. Oh, sorry. So look, we are in the process of applying for a laptop for our son. His laptop will come with him from primary school in September. How will the device be aligned and supported, or does he need to have one from Olive? So look, I presume that's coming under the SEN grant. In which case, look, what most schools will do in primary schools, they'll come to Olive and say, look, we have a student who's getting approved for a device. Can they buy one of the devices that they'll use when they go to St. Ciarán's? And the answer is yes, right? And then we wouldn't configure it at that point when it's in primary school, but we would take it back when the student is going into St. Ciarán's, and then we would configure it in exactly the same way as everyone else. You don't need to do that. We would recommend it because what it means is that student, okay, so your son will have the exact same device as everyone else. They'll have access to any of these accessibility tools that they might need. But again, if that's something you'd like to talk to us about, look, I'd encourage you to call the office. But we work with schools literally on a daily basis between primary and post-primary for exactly that same thing, okay? Let me just see. Okay, so look, we just have another question about 5 years and 6 year warranty. Hopefully I've explained that. Can you share the slides on the screen? You should have been able to see those, I believe. Sorry, I'm just reading through some of the questions. Sorry, what is the device name, and is it a Dell? Will there be ability to attach other peripheral devices? So no, it's a Zeus. Okay, it's an Asus device. Again, it's built for education. Will there be an ability to attach other peripheral devices? So there is. And what that means, you might want to attach a printer, for example, or when the student's at home, you might want to use a mouse. So you'll be able to do all of those things. We do set some restrictions in place so that students can't plug in something that might be damaging, right? But for the most part, yes, you'll be able to use that. If there was something other than mouse, keyboard, monitor, look, again, you just need to call us and we can talk you through that and we can put steps on it. Sorry, will the students have ebook options on the laptop so they can have the textbooks at school or at home, or will they have to carry the heavy textbooks, etc.? The school bag weight is very concerning. So Cara has answered that just to say ebooks will be used, and she agrees that this will be a big help in reducing the weight of the bag. Okay, so which is fantastic news. Let me just see. Look, someone talks about just the fact that it's not fair to say a laptop is not fit for purpose without seeing it or assessing it. Again, all I can say is this isn't any judgment on what device you might have at home. As I said, I use a MacBook. Okay, it's an expensive device. It's a work device. They are more expensive than the device we're talking about here today, but it's just not applicable. It's not fit for purpose in terms of it doesn't have a touchscreen, as I said, doesn't have all day battery life. But more importantly, we can't put any of those controls on it, right? There's no management, there's no support in the case if something goes wrong. So it's more so about all of those things, rather than, you know, picking on the device or assuming that, look, it's not up to scratch. It may not be fit for purpose in terms of an educational setting, and it won't have those controls on it that we spoke about. It won't have that same support in the background that's really important as well. If there are very little issues, why do we have to pay for a warranty? Yeah, look, Cara, I'll just say, look, there's always a possibility of an accident, and absolutely, again, we're putting as much preparation and controls in place to make sure, to minimize something going wrong, but things can always go wrong. So this is just really wrapping the device, really wrapping everything around the device to make sure that it is fully supported, that in the case that something does go wrong, it's supported, but we're trying to reduce that. So we're just trying to look for every eventuality. Ultimately, it's all about making sure the student can learn, right? That there's the student can use it effectively, and it does what they need it to do in terms of getting through the junior cert, getting through the leaving cert. So all of those things are in place just to help. That's the end goal here. Help students use it as an effective tool for their learning. Okay. Okay, sorry, look, is there upgrades or device maintenance required over the 5 or 6 year lifetime? And is it all covered in the all-of cost as long as it's time, as it's a long time to keep one device? So yeah, so the short answer is there will be updates and so on. There's no maintenance required, but again, if you feel that look, there's something, the device has slowed down over a period of 3 years and you want to look, that will be covered under warranty. We would assess it. We can do that remotely. If we feel it needs something to be pushed to it, something updated, we will do all that. It's all covered as part of the cost. Upgrade. So there's no upgrades as such, but there is different versions, software versions that will be pushed out as well. Same as we update our software on our phones, once a year, or we do smaller updates on a continuous basis. That will be the same with these. That will all be included. Are the applications that are loaded free of charge included in the package? Yes, is the answer to that. All of the apps that will go on at the start that are necessary for school will go on it. And also, okay, sorry, we're going to wrap up in just a moment, but I should say as well that any apps that aren't put on from day one, let's say in 6 months' time or a year down the line, a new app is discovered that the school would like installed on the device, we will do that remotely. So we will push it out remotely. We don't need you as a parent to do anything, or we don't need to take the devices back. It's all done as part of our support as well. Okay. Look, I think there's some questions then that are duplicated as well. I think sorry, yeah. Look, I might just talk about one more because I think it is important. If one student leaves school after 6th year, can the device be used by a sibling starting in the next first year? Look, I would say what's going to happen there is, let's say a student gets it for 5th and 6th year, and then they pass it on and another student starts with it in first year. The warranty is going to be out before they finish school at an earlier point, but also by the time they get to leaving cert, they're going to be using a device that is potentially 8 years old, right? Because the first student is used for 2 years, the next student may be into their 4th year. Sorry, they'll have 4 years, and then they'll have moved into 5th year, which is 5 years, and then so it could be an 8-year-old device by the time they're using it. So it's just not practical, okay? But again, that's something I would say we can talk about if it's applicable, but just think about the practicalities. It's just not practical, okay? And look, just some parents are asking some other questions that we've answered. So again, this will be shared with you, the recording. I would suggest, look, you do look at it. As I said, you can forward on, you can go straight to the question and answer at the end, or you can go back to any bits that we covered off earlier on. And also that parent pack to mention again will have a lot of the stuff that we spoke about today as well. I've spoken as usual for way too long. So I just want to say a very big thank you, and we very much look forward to working with everybody. And Pat, I might just hand it over to you then. Is that good yet? Yes.
Folks, I want to thank you all for coming in this evening. Look, there was a lot of information. I'd actually obviously like to thank Gary, who went through all the nuts and bolts of it and hopefully answered a lot of your questions as well. Really like to thank Dean as well, just for coming on board, making sure you're supported within the community by the credit union. So appreciate Dean for that, because obviously he put together that package as well, just with you in mind. So just appreciate Dean on that. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you have any outstanding questions, of course, don't forget you can contact the school. It's office@stciarancs.ie. You'll also find that on our website anyway. But hopefully this will be released as well, the recording, just if you want to watch back if there's any section where maybe you tuned out, or you had to tend to a child at home, or whatever the case is. If you want to just pick up on any part, this will be sent out as well. But thank you very much for tuning in tonight, and we will see you all again. Thank you.